Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 841 days less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yesterday, President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived to Italy, where the meeting of the group of 7 leaders took place, reports European Pravda. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni confirmed previous media reports that the leaders of the G7 reached a political agreement to provide Ukraine with around $50 billion in financial support, derived from frozen Russian assets. According to Meloni, the additional financial support to Ukraine will be provided by the end of the year in a form of a loan. The loan will be paid with the revenues from frozen Russian assets, which grow over time. In Italy, Volodymyr Zelensky and US President Joe Biden signed the Ukraine-US security agreement. The agreement reaffirms the United States' support for Kyiv in protecting its sovereignty and territorial integrity, as well as considered to be a step towards Ukraine's eventual membership in the NATO alliance. It also states that the United States intends to provide long-term material, training and advisory, technical, intelligence, security, defense, industrial, institutional, and other assistance to develop Ukrainian security and defense forces that are capable of defending a sovereign, independent, democratic Ukraine and deterring future aggression. According to the agreement, in the event of an armed attack on Ukraine or the threat of such an attack, American and Ukrainian authorities will meet within 24 hours to consult and determine what extra defense needs Ukraine has. The parties also recognize that Ukraine will not be safe until its sovereignty and territorial integrity are fully restored through the establishment of a just peace that respects the rights of Ukraine in accordance with international law, including the UN Charter. The United States welcomes Ukraine's continued efforts, particularly through the Ukrainian peace formula, to engage the international community in establishing the principles of a just and lasting peace. We would really appreciate if you could rate us, ideally with 5 stars, and leave a glowing review in the app where you're listening to this podcast: Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and others. This really helps more people to find out about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. US President Joe Biden said at a joint press conference with Volodymyr Zelensky after the signing of the security agreement that it will help strengthen the defense capabilities of Ukrainian forces, but there is no mention of a possible deployment of American troops. According to Biden, the purpose of the agreement is to strengthen the reliable defense and deterrence capabilities of Ukraine in the long term. The United States will help in the realization of both of these goals, not by sending troops to Ukraine, but by providing weapons and ammunition, expanding the exchange of intelligence, further training of Ukrainian soldiers in the United States and Europe, strengthening the interoperability of the forces, investing in the Ukrainian defense. The President of Ukraine said that the agreement includes provisions about military aid to Ukraine, including air defense systems and fighter jets. According to Zelensky, the security pact includes a legally binding part which refers to the dependability of American help, but he did not elaborate further. Ukrainian media Texty.org.ua reported that they faced pressure and threats from American politicians and officials after the agency published a study on people and organizations in the US that oppose support for Ukraine. On the 6th of June, they released the research Roller Coaster from Trumpists to Communists, the forces in the US impending aid to Ukraine and how they do it. This study, which contains a list of organizations and people who oppose support for Ukraine in the United States. This study contains a list of organizations and people who oppose support for Ukraine in the United States. The journalists analyzed the arguments of the opposition using open sources, including official ones, and compared them with common Russian narratives. In addition, Texty investigated how people and organizations from the list interact with each other in the public space, and some of them with Russian media and state institutions. Following the study's publication, Ron Paul Institute Director Daniel McAdams said that Texty, funded by the US government, had created a hate list of American citizens. As evidence of US government funding, McAdams noted that one of the publication's co-founders, Anatoly Bondarenko, was trained as part of the US government's Tech Camp project. The editors, for their part, claimed that Bondarenko acted pro bono as a data journalism coach in this project in 2013, 14, and 15. However, this information began to spread to other conservative publications and far-right and left-wing American activists. According to journalists, they attacked the editorial office of Texte, threatening the article's authors in particular. On 11th of June, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene also named the study of the publication a list of enemies and stated that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is behind it. On 11th of June, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene also named the study of the publication a list of enemies and stated that Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was behind it. On 12th of June, Fox News reported that Senator J.D. Vance and member of the U.S. House of Representatives Matt Gaetz called on U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken to send them information about the Ukrainian NGO Texte by 28th of June. They also appealed to the House Appropriations Committee to stop U.S. support of the publication. The committee has adopted this resolution. On 13th of June, Elon Musk, the owner of the social network X, former Twitter, who was mentioned in the study by journalists, called to add the publication to the list of terrorist organizations. The media itself called this an attack on freedom of speech and a display of chauvinism against the citizens of Ukraine. Quote, "Our critics believe that we don't have the right to investigate the streams of false information they produce about our country and us simply because they are US citizens and we are not," unquote. The editorial board of Texte.org.ua added. The US Embassy in Kyiv denied any funding for this research or any other involvement in it, reports Radio Liberty. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a commercial initiative of just two people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better.
We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.